see that the meeting is now streaming live on YouTube, so I will call to order the Milwaukee Area Technical College District Board meeting for Tuesday, October 27, 2020. Ms. Green, would you please give me a roll call?
Certainly. Director Case?
Here.
Director Foley?
Here.
Director Hamilton?
Here.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
Here.
Director Mitchell?
Here.
Director Mays?
Here.
Director Olson? Director Phelps-Okoro?
Present.
And Director Wilson?
Excused. We have a quorum. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
We are in compliance with the open meetings law.
I understand that we have 2 comments from the public today. I want to just repeat that board policy A0107 states, quote, "No person may speak more than once to an issue or for a period longer than 5 minutes, except upon the consent of a majority of the district board. No more than 3 people may be heard to one side of an issue, except upon the consent of a majority of the district board." I believe the first comment is from Kevin Mulvena.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Chairman Foley and members of the MATC Board of Directors, I am Kevin Mulvena, a faculty member of more than 30 years who has served under 6 of MATC's 10 presidents. I am also the Executive Vice President of AFT Local 212, which represents over 1,000 full-time and part-time faculty, as well as full and part-time paraprofessionals. As always, when coming before you to provide comment, I begin with a thank you for your willingness to voluntarily serve on MATC's board. A special welcome and thank you to our newest board members, Directors Mays and Mitchell. Never in my time at MATC have I seen the challenges that have arisen due to COVID-19. And never in my experience as a college worked so hard and so collaboratively across all lines to ensure the MATC community's health and safety while continuing to pursue our mission. In short, I don't believe any of the previous presidents I have worked for could handle these challenges with the levels of empathy, caring, collaboration, and effectiveness that Dr. Martin has modeled for all of us. So on behalf of all those Local 212 represents, I want to thank Dr. Martin for her leadership. We also thank her for her continued listening sessions where many employees share their ideas and concerns. And I'd also like to thank college attorney Janice Falkenberg for all of her work, and especially for chairing the college's integration team made up of leaders from all employee groups that meet several times a week to solve matters of concern and plan for all possible scenarios. Local 212 has had a series of virtual meetings with all of our constituencies since March, when the college had to pivot on a dime and deal with the pandemic. Attendance at these meetings continues to be at an all-time high, literally through the roof. Colleagues attend just to be together, to vent, to share their fears, and express their hopes. They are increasingly emotional events for all of us. Before I go any further, let me assure you that all of us are happy to have jobs at a time when many others do not. On the rare occasion a colleague complains about something that is trivial given today's challenges, I stop them and remind them of how fortunate we are. So I don't come here representing complainers. We are being honest and providing feedback to help all of us accomplish the college's mission. In a recent webinar many of us attended on stress reduction and in compliance with the college's wellness plan, we learned that 40% of employees across the general public felt burned out since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis. I attended that webinar and made a point of addressing it at our most recent general membership meeting, asking members to take care of themselves, their loved ones, and their students. A colleague later wrote me saying, "Kevin, I really appreciate Local 212 being an advocate for our mental health. I attended the same webinar, and as I did the stress reduction activities, all I did was cry." A Pathway dean recently shared with me that they have 6 or 7 faculty members that were, quote, on the edge and that they're concerned about. So some of the following will be Greek, but I'll do my best to translate what it is we are being asked to do in addition to teaching our courses and supporting our students during this pandemic. Number 1, you'll hear about the 21st Century Classroom Initiative later in this meeting. Essentially, it's designed to get all faculty to master and demonstrate certain skills in Blackboard, our learning management system. This has been a huge and largely successful effort that continues. It requires attendance at multiple workshops and a lot of time to rework our courses for remote learning with the aid of an assigned faculty coach. 2, we have our faculty quality assurance systems, FQAS requirements to stay certified to teach in the technical college system. While the number of hours required has been reduced to 60, the time frame for FQAS is now just 2 years instead of 4. For new full-time faculty, the requirements are even more rigorous. And yes, part-time faculty must complete their FQAS requirements as well. 3, faculty annually complete a teaching action plan, what we call a TAP. These TAPs are our roadmaps for professional development. In addition to completing the activities we assign ourselves, they require regular updating and documentation. 4, many of the faculty are in the midst of major curriculum modifications to move their courses into shorter 8 and 12-week terms as opposed to traditional 16-week terms. This requires hours of adjusting curricula and putting into the learning management system the faculty may be learning at the same time. In fact, we're now asking faculty who have courses that meet face-to-face for more than 3 hours to limit themselves to only 3 hours face-to-face and adjust their instruction accordingly. So welding, HVAC, and many other courses that usually meet all day have to be overhauled in short order. These instructors tend not to be the curriculum experts or as well-versed in Blackboard as their counterparts. They're scrambling to figure out how they will deliver their courses. We're slated to have a new faculty mentoring program, which will replace faculty advising. The new system will require training of faculty, not just in the program itself, but also in a software system called self-service, where we are told we will, for the first time, document our supportive interactions with students. I'm on 5 of 13, but I'll cut to my final comments given the time constraints. Individually, each of these efforts have merit, but in total, they are burdensome and unrealistic. Worst of all, they blur what it is we faculty should be focused on, and that is and always has been teaching and learning. You should also be aware that all of these requirements have caused faculty, especially part-time faculty in specific areas, to quit teaching altogether or work for other technical colleges without such constraints. My purpose here today is to say enough is enough. Tasks are constantly added while none are ever taken away, and faculty are overwhelmed. Therefore, on behalf of my colleagues, I am asking the administration to reduce and then prioritize what it is that faculty should focus on moving forward. So I close with the words of a colleague who said it best. I've seen all the extra time and effort administrators have been putting in since COVID hit. I've seen the insane schedules that they keep. It seems like everyone is trying to do their best in this difficult time, and I'm appreciative of that. But it's time to stop the bleeding, or at least stop inflicting more wounds. No more new demands or initiatives. Let us catch up and catch our breath. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. As I'm sure you know, the board will not be responding to any matter in adherence to the state of Wisconsin open meeting law, which prevents a governmental body from discussing any specific item that was not publicly noticed on the agenda. I do request for the sake of the board and perhaps for the administration as well, that you provide us with a list of the other, by my count, 7 or 8 items that you didn't get a chance to talk about, so we know what they are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have public comment from Equan Burrows and Randy Casey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and forgive my camera malfunction. I'm here to introduce our athletic director, Mr. Randy Casey, and our associate head basketball coach, Mr. Travis Merizic.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to come today, share, acknowledge, and celebrate a historic year for our institution and our men's basketball team. None of these accomplishments that I'll talk to you about would have even been possible if it wouldn't have been for the support of their fellow students, faculty, the Office of Student Life, you, the board, and our president, Dr. Martin, for supporting our athletic department. The group not only received local recognition, but also received national level recognition from multiple sources. Their success has helped MATC locally and across the country to gain more exposure to bring student athletes into our institution. I know as a board, you look at many things and talk about retention and completion and things for our students. Just to talk about this group that we had a little bit this year, 11 of our players throughout the year received academic all conference, which is a 3.0 GPA or higher per semester. 2 of our student athletes received national academic all-American awards. 1 was selected to the 3rd team, which was a 3.6 or higher GPA for the school year. And 1 was selected to the 2nd team, which is a 3.8 GPA or higher for the school year. We had 16 players on our roster. 8 of those players were sophomores at our institution. When we look at completion, it's not only receiving an AA degree from here. If they don't do that, it's being able to transfer with the number of credits needed to go on to a 4-year institution. 8 of our 11 sophomores are on at 4-year institutions, 2 in Illinois, 1 in Iowa, 2 in Kansas, 1 in North Dakota, and 2 in Arkansas. So as you can see, they've placed all different states around the US. 2 of those 8 graduated from our institution with their AA degrees. Out of the 3 that were left out of our sophomores, 1 decided that he just wanted to enter the workforce. He was done here at MATC. 1 decided just to go on, not play, and continue his education. And another one, like everything else, isn't perfect. COVID hit, and he did not do as well academically as we had hoped. We talk about retention. So we had 5 freshmen. 4 of those freshmen are back enrolled here at our institution this year, and 1 has decided to take the school year off and has plans to return to us the following year. So that is on the academic side. On the basketball side, they set a lot of records at our institution. After placing 5th at the national tournament last year, they turned around and came back this year and finished with an overall record of 31-1. Our team started the year ranked number 9 in the country out of 120 Division II institutions at the junior college level. By the end of the year, they were able to keep pushing forward and were ranked number 1 in the country and had the overall number 1 seed going into the national tournament before it was canceled due to COVID. We had 2 young men that had extraordinary years. 1 that was MVP of our region tournament, which was the first time in school history for that to happen. Another young man was player of the year in our conference and was acknowledged as an NJCAA 2nd team All-American. Again, first time for our institution. And the number 1 ranking in the country was the first time for our institution. So a lot of firsts for them. So we talked about so many things being taken away from these athletes and not being able to reach that ultimate goal that they had fight for throughout the season when COVID hit, and trying to see how we could give back to them for something that they may never see again in their, athletic career. So with the support of Student Life, we decided to honor them with a token of a ring for their accomplishments. And we would also like to present one of those to the board to keep at our institution. And also we have a pendant for Dr. Martin, because we appreciate the support that you, the board, give us and Dr. Martin gives our athletic department. I'd like to turn it over to my associate head coach, who is also, unfortunately for me, he's taken a new position here at our institution. Good for student life, bad for me because he's not in the athletic department anymore, but he is the new student life coordinator at our Oak Creek campus, and he's going to explain the design and everything that is on the ring for you. Travis Morosi.
Well, thank you for having me. So I'll try and make this as quick as possible so you guys can move on. So I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll try and get as close as possible. So this ring represents, there's the orange stones here on the top. The orange stones on the top, there's 14 of them. Those represent the 14 conference wins that we had. So we went 14-0 in conference. If you can see, there are 4 blue stones as well on the perimeter. Those 4 stones represent the 4 games that our players did not get to play at the national tournament. So that they'll always be honored knowing that they had some unfinished business. On the side of the ring, there's a conference logo, which honors the conference championship that we won. Also on the side, it recognizes that we're the #1 seed in the national tournament. On the opposite side, we recognize family because that's something that our program preaches to all of our players, that, you know, that we are a family, we are one, we work together. And then also on this side, it recognizes that we are nationally ranked #1 in the country. Also on the top, it recognizes that we won the Region 4 championship on this side. On the opposite side, it recognizes that we won our conference championship. So those are some of the major design elements that we had inside the ring. On the inside, you can see that one of the monikers that our team kind of picked up after the season was uncrowned champions, uncrowned kings. So it's something they talked about, that they were champions in their own right, but they didn't get to prove it on the floor. The other thing that is very special to us is the number 34. Number 34 is the number worn by Will Kellerman, the young man that passed away in a car accident that played for us several years ago. His family was gracious enough to help with scholarship opportunities with some of our guys. And they have an organization called Opportunity 34, which helps grant scholarships for all kinds of students. And they, you know, that will be near and dear to our guys. And we want to always recognize that him and his family and that organization is also always part of our team and our program. Lastly, we'd like to show Dr. Martin's pendant, which is essentially the exact same thing as the ring. Essentially the top half of the ring, just kind of cut into a pendant form. On the back of it, it will display your name, Dr. Vicki Martin, MATC president, and we also included the number 34 on yours as well. So you would always, you know, keep Will near and dear to your heart as well.
Thank you guys so much. Chair Foley.
Thank you very much. Wow. Yeah, can we give them a round of applause here? Everybody turn your microphones on.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to give congratulations to Dr. Martin. I'm sure she was not involved in preparing or presenting the passing drills, but she sure hired and inspired and supported the right people. Thanks to both of you for all you've done for our students and for the college, and for taking the time to put together this presentation. I think what you do is important, both for the specific students you work with and them learning what it means to succeed on a national level and how to keep going in the face of whatever, but also an inspiration for anyone else that we might recruit or need to help on retention. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we need to move on. Next agenda item is some housekeeping, approval of minutes from the regular board meeting of September 22nd, and also the task force subcommittee on minority participation from October 22nd. Could I have a motion and a second for approval of both, and then we'll see if there are any questions or comments.
Move for approval of the minutes.
Second approval.
Okay, I know that Director Mendieta Ramos did the second, but who moved? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Thank you. So we have a motion by Director Phelps Okoro and a second by Director Mendieta Ramos. Are there any questions or comments on either the regular board meeting minutes or the special board meeting minutes? There being none, let's take a vote. We have, again, a motion by Director Phelps Okoro and a second by Director Mendieta Ramos. Would all those in favor of approval of these two sets of minutes please indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is approval of the consent agenda items, including the September 2020 bills, the financial report for September 2020, the human resources report, which is for fiscal year 2019, and the procurement report. Again, if I could entertain a motion, I would entertain a motion for approval of all and ask for a second, and then we can see if there are any specific questions or comments about any of these parts. Is there a motion to approve all four of these consent agenda items, please?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Hamilton. Is there a second?
Second, Director Phelps Okoro.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Director Hamilton, a second by Director Phelps Okoro. Are there any questions or comments about the September bills, the September financial report, the human resources report, or the procurement report? There being none, let's take a voice vote on the motion by Director Hamilton and the second by Director Phelps Okoro. Would all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda items indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next are the board action items. The first is Resolution F0148-10-20, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020 to 2021E of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion and a second to approve this resolution?
So moved, Director Olson. Second, Director Case.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Olson and a second by Director Case. Is there any discussion? I guess first, I'm sorry, let's have Mr. Kevin Mullen from Robert W. Baird tell us about this.
Thank you very much. And Beth, I think, has shared with you the document that we'd just like to briefly go over. I know this is a well-worn path for you and your board. You see these sales occur frequently every month at your committee, but I think it's worth noting today when we did receive bids, we received one bid from the Bank of New York Mellon for a 0.6586%. It's unusual that your bonds would draw only one bid, but I think it's worth pointing out that is a function of two things. One, with interest rates being so incredibly low, many investors are stepping back on the very short end of the yield curve and the short window of bond repayment that you sell your bonds in. And so that has restricted the number of buyers in that space. More importantly, we're experiencing a very high level of bond issuance in the current month, historic highs. We actually had over 10 billion of bonds marketed this week, which is an incredibly large number of bond issues competing with MATC in the market. What we wanted to make sure were two things. One is that your bonds and this interest rate met the goals that had been established by your board in terms of your budgetary projections, and they have. More importantly, we wanted to make sure that they were reasonable and competitive given the marketplace, and we feel very confident that that's the case given the 0.658% interest rate. So turning the page, I'll just briefly discuss, what this borrowing is. It's $1.5 million that will settle in November of 2020. We retained the AA1 rating. These bonds are non-callable, and they're just basically the monthly borrowing for your ongoing capital needs. Turning the page, the last thing that I'd like to point out is that, as I mentioned earlier, given that there was one bid, we wanted to make sure that these bonds fit within the constraints of your financial projections. So you'll notice the last orange column, the Series 2021E bonds, you'll see the average interest rate here is at 2.06% and the associated payments with this borrowing. And if you turn your attention all the way to the right side of the schedule, this payment fits well within the projections and what has been levied for the current fiscal year for your capital project needs. So you'll notice in the year 2021, the targeted levy is $43 million, and these payments, based on the conservative projections that we have for the rest of the capital project borrowing, comfortably fit within that number. Right now would target that payment to be $42,186,000. So again, even though there was one bid, we feel confident that this is representative of the market and will meet your needs. So with that, I'd entertain any questions you might have. Thanks.
Any questions from members of the board? Hearing none, I have one question, and that is, are we going to face, or do we anticipate facing, a similar high level of competition in the marketplace next month? Do we have any concern that we might draw no bidders?
No, I don't think that that's as much of a concern. I think that, we've kind of, I would say there has been a rush to get into the bond market for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, interest rates are very low, but also given recent history, the last election, there was a large dislocation in interest rates leading up to the election. So I think this was just an unusually high volume of competitive interest. Well, certainly, I think that's a really good question and something that we obviously want to keep in mind and keep in the forefront. But you're such an incredibly good credit. I think that people, there's always interest. Before the actual public sale of this note, these bonds are listed on a system called parity, and it's possible to see who is actually queued up to bid. And so watching that, we would have a sense if there was no one scheduled to submit a bid ahead of the sale. But it's certainly something worth watching.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion from Dr. Olson and a second by Dr. Phelps-Coro. And we need to take a roll call.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Ms. Mendieta Ramos? Ms. Mendieta Ramos? Director Mitchell?
Aye.
Director Mays?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Phelps-Coro?
Aye.
Director Case?
Aye.
Director Foley?
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
She appears to have lost her connection. She was listed twice on the screen a minute ago and now only once, so she may have lost her connectivity. At any rate, the resolution passes. Next, we will go to resolution F0149-10-20, authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020-2021F of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion
Second.
by Director Phelps-Socorro. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Director
Director.
Case.
Mr. Mullen, I don't think you probably have much to say about this. It's the usual monthly authorization. Is there anything special we need to know about this particular issuance?
No, as you mentioned, this is just kind of the routine initial authorizing resolution.
Are there any questions about this resolution or comments? We have a motion by Director Phelps-Socorro and a second by Director Case. Would you please take the roll call?
Director Mendieta Ramos. Director Mitchell.
Aye.
Director Mitchell.
There she is.
Aye.
Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye. Resolution passes. Next is Resolution F0150-10-20 to establish fiscal year 2020-2021 tax levy. Vice President Hollow, would you please present this to us?
Sure. We are required each year, Wisconsin statutes require that the board establish a tax levy for the purposes of financing the fiscal year 2021 budget by October 31st, 2020. So, as you can see, this is the second page of the levy information, and you can see that what we're looking at is the far right column. You'll notice that the budget was put together using a 1.183275 tax levy rate. That was the one that we had from the previous year. We have to wait till this time each year for the state of Wisconsin to determine what our tax levy is. And basically that's determined by the equalized values. You can see the equalized values have increased year on year. That means the net new construction and the values of the properties in the Milwaukee Area Technical College District have increased. So the bottom line is that the tax levy is $1.15 per $1,000 of tax levy. And I think that covers just about everything. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Let's take the formal steps. Is there a motion to approve the resolution to establish the tax levy?
So moved. Director Case.
Thank you, Director Case. Is there a second?
Second. Director Olson.
Thank you, Director Olson. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments before we take a roll call on this resolution? Hearing none, Ms. Green, would you please take the roll call?
Director Mitchell.
Aye.
Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye. Resolution passes. Next is Resolution F0151-10-20 to approve the fiscal year 2019-2020 annual budget amendment. Again, Mr. Hollow, would you please give us the particulars?
Yes, each year in October, prior to the approval of our audit, we do budget amendments, and there's two different budget amendments. One is for fiscal year 1920, which we have in front of us. And then we're going to be looking at budget amendments for fiscal year 2021, which is the current fiscal year. What we do, these amendments for the previous fiscal year, the budgets have to be approved to spend the funds. And I can walk you through, I believe there's 3 for this fiscal year. The first one is in the general fund. And basically what this is, it's an adjustment. It's necessary and required by the WTCS for what we do is we get an actuarial study, and we pay for post-employment benefit costs. And the WTCS system requires us to put those costs into the general institutional function. So it's basically all this is a reclassification of $3.7 million from the instructional function into the general institution function. So I'll move on to the next item. And the second amendment is in Fund 2. It's a special revenue fund. And what this is we, because of the CARES Act funding, we have a $218,690 increase in revenues that as a result of the CARES Act funding, and we also had spending of the same amount. And so basically what we're doing is amending for the additional revenue and also the additional expense as a result of this grant. The third and final item is in Fund 7. Fund 7 is what we refer to as our special revenue non-aidable fund, and this includes financial aid. As you know, we received CARES funding for the institution and also for our students. And so what we did is we increased the revenues in this. We're amending to increase the revenues of $3,695,983,000 as a result of the CARES Act funding for students. And likewise, we had an expenditure in the fiscal year 2020 for the same amount. So those are the budget amendments for the fiscal year 2020. And that's, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those, but I think we need an approval.
Let's set up the formal approval process. Is there a motion to approve resolution F0151-10-20?
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Mitchell.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Hamilton. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments about this resolution before we take the roll call vote? There being none, we have a motion by Director Mitchell, a second by Director Hamilton. Ms. Green, would you please take the roll call?
Yes. Director Mays.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Phelps-Socorro.
Aye.
Director Case.
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos. Director Mitchell.
Aye.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos.
We don't appear to have connectivity with Director Mendieta Ramos, but regardless, we have sufficient votes to approve the resolution. The resolution passes. Next is resolution F0152-10-20 to approve the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget amendment. Mr. Hollow, you prophesied this was coming. Would you please tell us about it?
Yes, there's 5 adjustments. I'll try to get through them rather quickly. They're pretty straightforward. So what we do with this first one, it's a general fund, and basically what we do is from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, we get the true up of the tax levy. We put an estimate in there, and we were off by $60,950. So we're making that adjustment. We're going to amend for that. State aids, we were off by $33,415. So we're making an adjustment for that, and a likewise increase in expenditures for that particular, for those funds. The second item is in Fund 2, Special Revenue Fund. This is an adjustment to reduce the reserve for future state grants. There's 3 adjustments. There's also an adjustment to accommodate the CARES Act grants funds that we received from the Department of Education and the state of Wisconsin. And the third adjustment is to accommodate the FCC funds allocated to the promise to the promise for advertising. So these are adjustments. They're increases in revenue and also increases in expenditures. The total amount is $2,141,203. Okay. The third item is Fund 3. It's our capital fund. Typically every year we make an estimate when we put our budget together in June when we approve the budget. And what we do is we kind of make an estimate of where we think the capital funds balance will end at the end of the fiscal year. And then also we plan to spend that in the following fiscal year. This year our estimate was off by $2 million probably because of COVID, and we could not work through some of the work that was being done in our capital construction. So the increase in spending in 2021 will be $2 million. The carryover, additional carryover, will be $2,030,119. And we plan on spending that in the 2021 budget. That's why we're amending for that. The fourth item is the enterprise fund. The enterprise fund is Fund 5. Fund 5 is a fund that's intended to break even or show a profit. When we think about enterprise funds, we think about bookstore, childcare, food service, the parking structure that we own. Typically, those are for-profit entities. Oh no, this is PBS. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. This is a small adjustment for PBS. It's $158,886,000 carryover of unspent capital, which will be spent in the next fiscal year. I apologize for the confusion. The fifth item, as I started to explain, was the enterprise fund, which is non-PBS entities. And so we anticipate, when we put the budget together, we did not know where COVID would take us, how long it would last, or whether it would impact or how it would impact the enterprise funds. We're seeing that the parking structure, we have less people parking in the parking structure, and we anticipate that to be an ongoing situation. We have less children in the child care center, so we anticipate lower revenue. And also our food service, we have less people on campus, and so we have less revenue for food service. So what we're doing is we're reducing all of our revenues by a total of $3 million, $3,012,000. And then likewise, we have additional expense. Now this isn't a one-for-one. What we have to do here in this situation is we're going to spend from our reserves. We had a $3 million, almost $3.2 million in reserves for Fund 5. We anticipate that we will be spending $1,387,892. Once again, that's an estimate, but we feel that we're going into our reserves by that amount. It still leaves us, with a healthy reserve for next year. But anyway, so that's the impact of what we primarily attribute to the COVID situation and Fund 5. So if there's any questions related to any of these adjustments, I'll be happy to answer them.
Again, before we actually get to any questions, now that we know what specifically is proposed, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Director Phelps-Crowe and Director Case. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments about these proposed adjustments? I'm hearing none. I do have one question, Mr. Hollow, going back to attachment 5E. Let's see, it is attachment 5E. How can I? It's the Fund 2 Special Revenue Fund page.
Sure.
I don't understand the first line of numbers. What does it mean to have a negative number on a line which is a reserve for future state grants?
So what we're doing is we're reducing, that's not, okay, that's revenue that's coming across. Oh, so the adjustment is to reduce the reserve for future state grants. So basically,
what is a reserve for future state grants? Why don't you clarify that for us first?
Okay. So what's happening is that is, I think that's that comment. Oh, there's, okay, there's a reduction in state revenues in that. So what will happen is that'll impact the, we're decreasing revenues for state grants, and we're not changing our expenditures for state grants. So that what'll happen, in fact, it reduce our reserves for state grants. So there was no likewise reduction in state grant spending. So that's
all right. So let me say this back to you. And
okay, the reserve is too high, and so we're bringing the reserve down a bit.
Okay. Let me say this back to you and tell me if I've got this now, because I'm not quite understanding what a reserve means in this context.
Sure.
So are you saying that our budget anticipated state grants totaling $2,007,930, but we now anticipate there will be only $1,562,342?
Yes, and so.
And is there a reserve fund to cover such shortfalls if they occur?
So a reserve is, if you think about in a private sector, it would be retained earnings. So if you think about reserves, you have revenue minus expense, and what's remaining after what you've spent is in reserve. So we have a positive reserve. We anticipate our reserve was too high, so we're bringing down the budget on the revenues, but we're going to continue to spend the same amount on the expense side, which means we will bring the reserve down. So typically there's a 1-for-1 revenue and expense. In this case, we're bringing the revenue down and our expenditures are remaining the same, which means we will spend from the reserves for state grants.
Okay, and the reserve you're talking about is the equivalent of the retained earnings that you mentioned?
Yes, in the private sector, you would think of retained earnings. Yes.
All right, I think I understand it. Are there any questions about this resolution? There being none, we have a motion from Director Phelps-Okoro, and we have a second from, I'm sorry, was it Director Case?
Yes, it was me.
Thank you. Ms. Green, would you please take the roll call?
Sure. Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Phelps-Okoro?
Aye.
Director Case?
Aye.
Director Hamilton?
Aye.
Director Mendieta Ramos?
Aye.
Director Mitchell?
Aye.
Director Mays?
Aye.
Director Foley?
Aye. Resolution passes. Thank you, Mr. Hollow. Next is resolution F0153-10-20 to approve designation of MATC state public officials. This is an annual resolution and a state requirement, which requires us to approve the job titles who will report directly to the president. Cheryl Zima, are you on to give us a further explanation?
Yes, I'm on. You actually
There
did.
you are.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm here. Hi. You did an excellent job of actually explaining it. So as you said, this is the annual request, and what this is the 13 names on here are the people who will be submitted to the state to complete the Code of Ethics for Public Officials for the next year. So this is the board approving the 13 titles that are on the list for us to submit.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Director Case.
Thank you, Director Case. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Ramos.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments about this resolution before we take the vote? There being none, this is a voice vote. Will all those in favor of approving resolution F0153-10-20 indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes. Our last action item is resolution F0154-10-20 to approve the associate degree program titled Community Health and Nutrition Navigator 10-539-X. Dr. Deckwar, will you tell us about this, please?
Well, thank you, Chair Foley. Our team is seeking the approval for the associate degree program titled Community Health and Nutrition Navigator. Just to give you some background information on the process, this is the first step in the program approval process, and this process is really a two-step process. Once this board approves this step, it would be heard by the WTCS board in January. That's as soon as they can hear it. As soon as the first step is approved by the WTCS board, then we would send up the paperwork for the second step. Now that should be heard by the WTCS board in March, and that will conclude actually and complete the process. So this is how the process works. It's going to take a few months here. In the meantime, our team is ready to provide whatever documentation and information is needed to the state. And by the way, even leading up to this first step, there's a lot of work that we do with the state and at the state level. So much of that's been done already. At this time, I'd like to give you some idea about the content of this program, and I'll turn it over to the Dean of the Healthcare Pathway, Dr. Kelly Dries, and the program chair, Heidi Carey, to provide a quick summary. Dr. Dries?
Hi there. This is Dr. Dries. I'd like to introduce Heidi Carey, who's our program chair for the Nutrition and Dietetic Technician program, and also our Dietary Manager program as well. Heidi?
Thank you, Dr. Dries, Dr. Dockwire, and all for allowing me to come in and share with you this exciting new program. I'm going to just give a little bit about what the program is and where we would see these graduates working, and also pathway opportunities for this particular program. It is a 2-year Associates in Applied Science Community Health and Nutrition Navigator. These workers are frontline public health workers that build trusting relationships with community members to serve as healthcare liaisons to help navigate health, food, and nutrition access. It's been created with a culmination of nutrition and public health curriculum concepts through our accrediting body, Ascend, as well as the League of Innovations for Community Colleges and Public Health Educators reports. With the program development, there are about 5 program outcomes we're looking to achieve, including such things as providing information to refer patients based on identified barriers, communicating effectively with healthcare teams and diverse patient populations and their families to achieve health and nutrition outcomes, apply foundational health and nutrition knowledge to ensure safe and competent, effective services, and assume professional responsibility to provide safe, ethical, and effective health and nutrition services, as well as integrating person-centered principles for supportive access to services and promote health and wellness for the individual and the community. With this, the job outlook is positive, increasing about 13.8% for community health workers, as well as the average pay being somewhere around $23.07 per hour. The job titles would include such things as community health workers, health educators, community health navigators, resource navigators, community health advocates, most of which these jobs are currently being taken by nurses. This is another option for health individuals that come into our program, into our healthcare pathway, interested in learning about and serving our community in a health way. And most of these positions are currently taken by nurses, but there's this curriculum that could build these individuals that could go out and be direct workers into the community to help individuals navigate their health and food access. And recently with our advisory meeting that met on Thursday, I presented this concept to the advisory board, and the members were saying this is wonderful in terms of allowing our community members, individuals that can help them identify food aid, food access, their health care. And so it's something that's being very well received by our advisory board members. We also, of course, did our survey and our research on the community and got feedback from our community contacts, one of which I've actually had my mobile nutrition classroom out at one of these community center sites, and they're really excited about having our students come through these programs and come back and work at these community centers. Another thing I did want to make mention, I know it was only given 2 minutes, but it's super exciting to talk about, is pathways. So we already went and talked with UWM, their School of Public Health and their health care schools, and they both are really on board and excited about pathways being offered for potential Bachelor of Public Health into their Masters of Public Health pathway after the person completes their community health and nutrition. Much of their education is in nutrition, and this curriculum is public health and nutrition. And another pathway being built through the work that we were a part of together with UWM and Mount Mary. We've achieved a higher education grant on fueling a diverse workforce, an interinstitutional approach for nutrition and dietetic education. And in that pathway, we would offer from our community health navigator, health and nutrition navigator associates in applied science to a potential bachelor's in nutrition, and ultimately an RD-MPH as a registered dietitian with a master's in public health. So these are technically 2 other pathways that this particular graduate could go into for higher education. So there's wonderful opportunities that are built in, and we've had conversations regarding those opportunities as well. I'll stop talking now because I could take all of your time. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for your time. Is there any questions that you have about this program?
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anything else to present on this? All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution F0154-10-20?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Mitchell. Is there a second?
Second, Director Case.
Thank you, Director Case. We have a motion and a second for Resolution F0154-10-20. Are there any questions or comments from the board before we proceed to a vote? There being none, this is a voice vote. Will all those in favor of the resolution indicate that by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Heidi and Kelly. Next, we have reports, beginning with the chair's report. Director Case and I attended the Association of Community Colleges Trustees Leadership Congress virtually on October 5 through 8. Carla Retke, board member from Northwest Technical College, received the Central Region Trustee Leadership Award during the virtual conference, which we think is a first for a Wisconsin trustee. On October 23rd, the Wisconsin Technical College District Boards Association virtual fall meeting was held. Presentations focused on data that are collected and generated by the WTS system. This particular time, they presented information about parental perception of technical colleges, marketing data, and graduate outcomes. These reports are on their website. If you were not able to attend, I encourage you to go and read them. I have asked if they can break their data down for us by college and or by city versus rural survey respondents on the parental perceptions. I don't know how much of this data they've already shared with the college, but there were 3 points that I thought were pretty interesting. Laura and Tony, if you're already aware of these, I apologize, but I hadn't heard these before. The first data point said that 50% of parental influencers, that is parents who are seen by their students as influencing their decision about where to have the child go to college or the student go to college, 50% do not look at online information. We've increasingly focused on making sure our online information is clear and accessible and comprehensible and locatable, but apparently 50% of parents don't look at it, and we have to reach them as influencers some other way. The second I thought was pretty interesting is that the favorability ratings of the Wisconsin technical colleges and the UW system colleges used to be dramatically different. They are now statistically insignificant as our ratings have gone up and theirs have gone down. The third survey data asking adults whether they would recommend a technical college versus a UW college, would recommend to a student that they attend a technical college or a UW system college, showed that adults are more likely to recommend the technical college system to a friend or the son or daughter of a friend than they were to recommend their own child. I don't know what that data means. The reason given generally was better fit, but somewhere in that number, I think, is a hidden marketing opportunity, and I'm going to leave it to the professionals at this school to figure out what that means. Third, Director Phelps Okoro chaired a board subcommittee task force on minority participation held via Zoom on October 22nd. Director Phelps Okoro, can you give the rest of the board who didn't participate a quick update on what happened there?
Yes, thank you, Director Foley. So we met October 22nd and we discussed procurement, construction procurement, and non-construction procurement. And in that, we had some questions from the last meeting. And Jenny was nice enough to provide us with information regarding outreach improvements to actively engage minority construction firms and suppliers through networking sessions, listening sessions, and open houses, as well as engage the list from the city and the county for certified businesses, as well as improve education resources for general contractors that are on the list in the city, and educate the tier 2 and tier 3 subcontractors. And ultimately what we're looking for is more of a diverse spend in our construction budget. As far as future considerations, looking at the viability of doing a disparity study, which we were informed that we would not be able to use the city's disparity study that they're currently doing. Also consider retaining network of consultants to provide the management regarding the financial assistance to minority-owned construction firms and suppliers. As far as the non-construction procurement, Laura mentioned that she has a meeting coming up with WPI, so that'll be a great partnership. And MATC is doing a webinar regarding the purchasing procedures and opportunities that MATC has. She also has the quarterly vending sessions. She's suggesting moving those to a different time, so probably 4 to 5 time slot where business owners might be available, more readily available, and reaching out on LinkedIn and other outreach programs, as well as getting MATC employees involved with the goal, stating what their focus is and their goal and the reasons for doing it. And then there's also a 5% preference that was put into place for contracts over 50,000, which represented the majority of our spending last fiscal year. We do have a few outstanding questions that we will be discussing at a later date, which involves 18% minority participation for the construction spend. We would like to know what that number was based on, when it was put into place, and how that number was come up with, the last update, and what might be needed in order, will it need to be amended up or down? As well as future talks about disparity study, if that's in the best interest of the college. And as far as procurement of non-construction, we did not answer the question of open and fair to everyone as it relates to equity. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. That's a lot to absorb. Are there any questions from the board members about the committee, the work that's been done, and the things that are still on the table? Director Mitchell, you look like you're about to ask a question. Am I? Nope. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, Director Phelps-Coro. Next is Director Mitchell. Can you give us an MATC Foundation report, please?
I will. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone is doing well this evening and everybody is healthy. A lot of stuff going on the foundation board. So we met on the 26th of September, and we started off the meeting with some positive impact messaging from some of our student-facing staff. These messages included Reggie Parks from Rev Up, Bob Holland from Student Scholarships, Asana Her from High School Promise, and Jonathan Feld from Adult Promise. Really great stuff, great promotional stuff. I was really impressed. And it's really cool to be on the, to sit in on these meetings. And I believe Director Mays, were you there as well?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great, and looking forward to the future meetings. As I said, there's a lot going on. So we also heard the annual presentation of the audit report, and they wanted to give us this reminder that the foundation has 3 central functions: awarding scholarships, emergency funds, and programmatic investments annually to support students in college activities, providing financial management of donated and endowed funds, and raising new funds for scholarships, emergency funds, and programmatic expansion. The audit went very well. It was done by Clifton Larson Allen. They issued a very clean audit with no comments for improvements or any new internal controls. And then they actually commented that the management was very easy to work with, and they are highly organized, and they have great financial controls and processes in place. So that's pretty cool. That means they obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously that gives us great feedback.
Oh, good. So far.
Questions?
No, I think someone is not on mute. That should be, please.
Okay.
Settings.
So obviously the audit provides our donors with the assurance that their gifts are being directed to their intended purpose and that they're being managed in a fiscal manner. We also spent a lot of time discussing the MATC Promise program. To launch this program, the foundation worked with the college to secure $2 million in contributions to support last dollar scholarships to help bridge the gap between a student's financial aid award and the cost of tuition. The foundation team has evaluated the ongoing cost of the program and also has done market research with local leaders on the receptivity of MATC Promise fundraising campaign. we are at the early stages of a $4+ million promise campaign. So that's really cool stuff. And then they also celebrated the opening of the new Al Hervis Peak Transportation Center, which obviously is a result of a public-private partnership. The foundation worked to raise more than $3.23 million for the new MATC Rev Up program, which is the expansion to the automotive and transportation programs at MATC. And to date, donors, including area dealers, foundations and individuals have pledged the $3.23 million to Rev Up, the largest of which is from Tom Hervis, who gave $1.1 million in seed funding, and he has matched every subsequent gift and pledged dollar for dollar. So pretty amazing individual there. So again, look forward to sitting on future meetings on my report.
Thank you. Any questions for David? David, thank you for all of that. Next is the president's report. Dr. Martin, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair Foley, and good evening to board members, faculty, staff, students, and community members. We had a busy month launching 2 important projects. As you will recall, you helped develop our vision and mission statements and approved our strategic priorities. So on October 20th, we held our annual fall MATC Day and launched our new strategic plan called Transformation 2025. Would now like to share a video with you that was put together for the launch.
I hear it, but I don't see it. Do we have to change a setting somewhere?
A vision statement is a stake in the ground, a long-term aspiration of who we strive to be. It is our true North Star that inspires and guides us every day.
Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Milwaukee Area Technical College.
MATC.
MATC.
The best choice in education.
Where everyone can succeed.
The best choice in education where everyone can succeed.
Our strategic plan tells our college community 2 important things. We know where we need to go as an institution, and we know how to get there. Our planning process and our resulting 5-year strategic plan, which we call Transformation 2025, brought together the voices of our students, our employees, employers in our region, and our community partners. Over a 10-month period, they looked at data and trends, discussed our past, and envisioned what our future could be. We then sent surveys out to our employees and students to help give us more information to clarify those plans. Our strategic plan is an important document because it's not just about tomorrow, but the work we do today. We align our daily work to these goals so that we are all moving in the same direction and can succeed together. Any good strategic plan starts with a clear mission, a purpose statement that tells everyone who we are and why we exist. Our mission statement strongly reflects what our students and community members tell us we need to do for them. We are the catalyst for transformation.
Education.
Education.
Education that transforms lives.
Industry and community.
Education that transforms lives, industry, and community.
Education that transforms lives, industry, and community.
Education that transforms lives, industry, and community.
Our revised MATC value statements reflect important changes in our community and provide the foundation not just for our culture, but for our actions and behaviors in our classrooms, our offices, our hallways, and most important, for our processes that serve our students and community.
These aren't just words on paper, but declarations of who we are, what we are as a college, what we stand for, and what everyone can expect from us.
Empowerment. We support our students and employees
with the skills, tools, and autonomy
to succeed.
with the skills, tools, and autonomy to succeed.
Inclusion. We provide a fair and welcoming environment
where all voices are heard,
where all voices are heard,
and all students and employees feel a sense of belonging.
Innovation. We are agile and responsive to changing conditions.
Agile and responsive while anticipating future needs to best serve our students and community.
To best serve our students and community.
Integrity, where we demonstrate honesty, professionalism, and accountability.
In all interactions.
Honesty, professionalism, and accountability.
With our students, each other, and our community partners.
Respect.
Respect. Respect.
We approach all interactions with openness and empathy.
We value different perspectives and treat each other with civility and kindness.
and treat each other with civility and kindness.
Throughout our inclusive planning process, these 4 areas clearly rose to the top as the most important priorities if we hope to achieve our mission and work toward our vision.
They encompass where we need to focus our energies and what we need to do in the next month, the next semester, the next year, and even the next 5 years to move our college forward.
Strategy 1, student experience.
Ensure all the students can succeed by delivering a personalized and holistic student experience.
Strategy 2, organizational excellence.
Advancing organizational agility and excellence in a culture of innovativeness and informed decision-making.
Strategy 3, equity.
Promote equitable outcomes for all students and employees by creating an inclusive and supportive college environment.
Strategy 4, community impact.
Strengthen community impact as a catalyst and partner to create positive change.
I am extremely proud of the student experience statement for a number of reasons. How a student encounters and interacts with the college is critical to that student's success. And at MATC, we must meet the needs of a variety of students. Some are coming straight from high school, looking for a traditional college experience with athletics and student clubs and organizations. Others are mid-career professionals seeking additional credentials to skill up or to make a career change. Still, more have been affected or laid off during this recession and come here seeking a fresh start.
We thought it was important to make a commitment to those students who have different kinds of experiences when they come to any one of our 4 campuses. And the students at Milwaukee Area Technical College experience an engaging and empowering education characterized by
a welcoming learning environment that fosters personal growth and resilience.
Supportive, personalized services
designed to help students succeed.
Innovative technology that inspires students' creativity.
A warm and supportive community for every person.
Regardless of ability,
religion,
race, ethnicity, gender identity, and/or sexual orientation.
Hands-on experiences
that foster student desires to stay in school
and prepare them for the future.
Meaningful friendships with other students.
and strong connections with caring, compassionate, and encouraging faculty and staff.
Fun, culturally sensitive, and inclusive campuses
That promote a sense of belonging and school pride.
MATC is the most diverse technical college in Wisconsin and one of the most diverse institutions of higher education in the Midwest. Now, more than ever, we understand that with this diversity comes a responsibility to make sure all students and employees of color feel included and welcome on our campuses. And we want a student of color to succeed at the same rate as their white counterpart. We want each student to get what they need to be successful through the student experience they receive at our college.
That means continuing to make changes at our college when we see processes and barriers that are holding students back. It means looking at our data differently so we can see the whole story and change the narrative. An equity lens must be how we view all of our work, and that's why building this perspective into our strategic plan was so important.
MATC is breaking down barriers that stand between students and their academic and career success by
providing a safe place
where differences are valued and celebrated.
Providing a safe place where differences are valued and celebrated.
Providing awareness, training, and crucial conversations
to move beyond our individual biases,
to move beyond
our individual biases, whether unconscious or implicit.
To move beyond our individual biases,
whether unconscious or implicit.
Creating an inclusive environment that welcomes, accepts, and respects all students and employees
while serving the unique needs of every individual.
This resonates with the attitudes and behaviors
of everyone who works and learns at this college.
All of us who learn and work at the college.
Milwaukee Area Technical College.
MATC.
MATC, the best choice in education
where everybody can succeed.
Where everyone can succeed.
Where everyone can succeed.
MATC, education that transforms lives,
industry, and community.
And community.
Education that transforms lives.
Where everyone
can succeed.
Okay, I don't know if you had trouble seeing it, we can send a link so that you can view it again if you need to. But I want to give special thanks to the Strategic Plan Steering Committee led by Dr. Christine Mannion, MATC Day Committee led by Jane Beyer, Milwaukee PBS for the video production, and all the employees that you saw who gave presentations at MATC Day, but all those who also appeared on the video as well. The second launch we had this month at MATC, along with Carthage University, UW-Milwaukee, and UW Parkside, committed to the National Moonshot for Equity, which is a project that was supported by EAB aimed at ending those equity gaps in higher education by 2030. We are the first regional consortium as part of HERA that was selected for this project, so we're pretty proud of that. And Dr. Mannion will provide some updates a little bit later. You have heard about COVID, of course. We are monitoring that situation through our health and safety team. Information on the number of positive cases can be found at our website, our COVID dashboard, and we can send you that link as well. We are reviewing the latest City of Milwaukee Health Department mandate that was just issued yesterday, to see how it would impact our college. There's some language around our athletic teams and that the athletes would need to be tested once every 3 days. We know that this increase in cases affects the stress among our faculty, staff, and students. And we are holding some listening sessions. We held some this month, as you heard, and we'll do some more in November as well. And there's a number of other strategies that we're deploying. The Office of Student Life has held a number of listening sessions as well, and so congratulations to them to creating a place for our students to hear what is going on at the college, but also for us to hear what is going on in their lives, especially during this very difficult time. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Elle Bonds, who is our newly hired Chief Human Resources Officer, our Vice President of Human Resources. Today is her first day at MATC. She will be replacing Cheryl Zima, who is retiring at the end of this year. And before I ask Elle to say a few words, I'd like to thank Cheryl Zima on behalf of the college for her guidance that she provided during our compensation study and the restructure of our organization through Guided Pathways. We really appreciate all the contributions that she's made in her short time here at the college. So I'll turn it over now to Elle Bonds.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Everybody can hear? Okay, wonderful. As Dr. Martin indicated, my name is Laquitha Bonds. I go by Elle. I am the new Vice President and Chief HR Officer at MATC. Very, very excited to be here. I was telling Dr. Martin earlier that it was so hard taking time off. I don't know how to vacation. So I was really anxious to come and start today, and just really thrilled to be serving in this capacity. Just a little about my background. I've spent the last 2 decades working in human resources in a number of staff and leadership positions, starting in healthcare and currently in higher ed. In the last 10 years or so, almost 10 years, I've worked for Waukesha County Technical College. I was an adjunct instructor teaching in the supervisory management program, specifically HR courses. And also I served as the director of talent operations in the human resources department, where I had strategic oversight over recruitment, compensation, benefits, HRIS, performance management, employee relations, and payroll. I feel like I might be missing one. I'm not sure. I also was the Title IX, Deputy Title IX coordinator there as well. While it was important for me, this was a natural step, progressional step in my career. It was really important for me to stay working for an institution that had a mission that was parallel to my values. And so that is why I wanted to be at MATC. I love how MATC serves the community and partners with the community, enhances and develops our community. And I am service oriented as well. And I believe in the tech college system. My son is 21 and is a graduate of the tech college system in IT, and was working within 3 months of graduation, by the way, full time, ready to get him out the house. So anyway, I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Elle. Really appreciate it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Next is Dean Equan Burrows, ready to proceed.
Do you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Wonderful. To the board, Chair Foley, President Martin, and our community, it is my honor to introduce our new student representative to the board of directors, Ms. Brandy Martin. I am excited about the leadership that Student Life is now currently under, as I have left my post as your prior director of Student Life, and now your Dean of Student Experience, where now Director Eric Zymans will take on the lead in directing and guiding our students to their ultimate goals of success here at MATC. And with that said, without further ado, Ms. Martin, if you could, this is your turn to introduce yourself to the board, and then thereafter give your board report.
Sure. Thank you, Dean Burrows, members of the MATC District Board, Dr. Vicki Martin, and administration. My name is Brandy Martin, and I am the District Student Government Association Board Representative for the 2020-2021 school year. I am originally from Michigan City, Indiana, and my mother, 6 siblings, and myself came here when I was about 6 years old. We stayed due to health problems that I was born with, which later would play a role in my decision in choosing a career path. I chose MATC because my mother earned her master's degree in business management, and she's still working to pay off her student loans. I feel like MATC would be a great place to receive my education and a financially responsible choice as well. I am currently registered or currently in the program to become a registered nurse. I hope to one day become a pediatric nurse practitioner. I heard about SGA my first semester here at MATC. When entering the building to attend class, I was greeted by 2 West Allis SGA members who made me feel welcome and made SGA seem like an exciting opportunity to take part in. They took the time to help me introduce myself to the student body, and as a student leader, I feel like I could be very instrumental as a part of student government. This semester, I became vice president of the West Allis location. My first task as vice president was attending a DSGA meeting where I was nominated for the position of board representative. I was honored and looked at my nomination as a way to grow and learn new things as well as meet new people. Since becoming board representative, I've recently learned about campus labs, which can be found at matc.campuslabs.com/engage, a website dedicated to connecting the student body to current events as well as those that have passed, organizations, and the newest news from all 4 locations. The pandemic has made it harder for students to connect with the college, and I believe that this site can be very instrumental in keeping us connected as a student body. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandy. You did a great job. I can't wait to see all the great things you'll do in conjunction with our Student Life Department. Chair Foley.
And let me make my own personal welcome to you, Brandy, to the board, and we're looking forward to seeing you and having your participation. Next is the Milwaukee PBS General Manager's Report. Mr. Zachary.
Good afternoon, Chair Foley, MATC board members, Dr. Martin, faculty, staff, students. A few minutes ago, you saw the new strategic plan video for MATC. I appreciate Dr. Martin's compliments. I'd like to begin my remarks today with an acknowledgement of the women and men at Milwaukee PBS who share credit for producing the video you just saw. So I'm going to list them off in alphabetical order. They are Gail Grisbowski, Chris Hayes, Lois Marr, Chris Michalski, Justin Migliano, and Jason Pinkowski. They did a great job, and I very much appreciate their work on this project. I'm happy to announce that the upcoming MATC virtual commencement ceremony will air on channels 10 and 36 in late December. We will mail you the date once we have locked in the day and the time. Milwaukee PBS continues to report on the impact of COVID-19, racial injustice and equity issues on its 3 award-winning news series, Black Nouveau, Adelante, and 1036. Leading up to next week's elections, the 3 shows have also produced several special Vote 2020 editions featuring hosts Portia Young, Patricia Gomez, and Earl Arms, who joined Black Nouveau recently as its new host. The response from viewers has been terrific. Additionally, Black Nouveau producer Alexandria Mack and 1036 producer Scotty Myers wrote and appeared in a spot about voting in Milwaukee. A nod to Chair Foley for giving us that great suggestion. We're already preparing for a new year that, as you can all tell, will be as complicated and as challenging as this one has been. Milwaukee PBS will continue to bring its editorial skills to being a source of solid information and resources for the communities of Southeast Wisconsin. This concludes my report tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bodan. Are there any questions about the PBS report for tonight? Great. I thank you for the nod and a nod back. I just suggested that we do something that helped make sure that the most current and accurate information about how people can vote, need to vote, what they need to do to vote, where to vote, be part of our repertoire. And I think that Mr. Zachary and his colleagues did a great job. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch more Channel 10. Next is Legislative Matters Report, which will be presented this month by Jen Spalkenberg.
Thank you, Chair Foley and board members. We did send out to all of you an update from Rami Zelenkova, who was not able to be with us this evening. And the report really is just centered more around all of the updates regarding COVID statewide in terms of what various rules and orders have come out of the governor's office. There is, as you may all know, we are undergoing a national and state election, so that is taking up all of the time of our legislators, both statewide and nationally. So there really isn't much to report this month on the legislative front, other than obviously the upcoming election and all that is going on around that. So with that, it's just really the report on the various orders and such that have come out from the governor's office. And as Dr. Martin mentioned in her report, we are carefully watching what is coming out both state and locally from our public health departments to ensure that we are in compliance with all of the regulations and such in our operations as a college. So with that, I will entertain any questions the board may have.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Vice President Falkenberg. Next is the Audit Advisory Report. Mr. Hollow, Vice President Hollow.
Hello again. The Advisory Audit Committee was held on Thursday, September 24th. Mr. Brian Kubik, Manager of Internal Audit, provided an internal audit update. This included a discussion with Don Kasperzak, Director of Information Security at MATC, related to IT security risks associated with working from home. This included security concerns, training awareness, and device access and availability. An update on the audit plan was also presented, an update on management's completion of action plans, an update on internal audit survey results, customer satisfaction surveys each audit, and governance leadership survey, which is done on an annual basis. And finally, an update on the Advisory Audit Committee's charter compliance. All items were met for fiscal year 2019-2020. That's the end of the report. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions on the audit report? Thank you, Jeff. Next is board monitoring and the enrollment report by Dr. Law. Dr. Law?
Yes, good evening. Good evening. Our enrollment as determined by FTEs is currently at 4,683, which is 93% of our end of term cumulative target of 5,037. Unfortunately, the pandemic is hitting our most vulnerable communities the hardest. While our enrollment is down slightly in relation to our targets, it is not because of a lack of effort or will. Our teams will continue working externally and internally to meet the needs of our students as well as the communities that we serve. A recent report provided by the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center shows MATC enrollment trends are mirroring other two-year public colleges. These trends are decreased enrollment for first-time students, as well as decreased enrollment for students returning after stopping out for one or more terms. In addition to our recruitment, pathway, admissions, and financial aid teams reaching out to our students, we are also hosting approximately 20 student orientation and registration meetings, in short, STORM events. These events will take place between now and the first day of spring class in January. These STORM events are another component of the Guided Pathways framework we are implementing, where students are able to receive orientation and registration assistance. A special thank you to Janae Alston, Director of Advising, for her dedication to serving students and leading the STORM planning and implementation team. Additionally, teams are working on increasing fall to spring retention by setting up time for entire class sections to receive registration assistance for spring. So as of this point, we are approximately 6 to 7% behind target, behind our budgeted goal, which is, we've been steady here for a while. I don't have a crystal ball, but we anticipate to finish the term around this target.
Any questions for Dr. Law? I don't see or hear that there are any. Last chance, going once, going twice. Thank you, Dr. Law. Appreciate the report. Keep up the hard work. I'm sure you will. And next is the ADT Moonshot update from Dr. Christine Mannion. Dr. Mannion?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I have a few slides, but I will keep this brief. Dr. Martin mentioned that I would be kind of giving you a little overview of our new partnerships and some things that we've been doing with Achieving the Dream and in relationship to Moonshot. So if we go to the next slide, this is just a listing of some of the activities we've been doing with our Achieving the Dream partners. But overall, it just basically is showing you that we're working with our coaches to examine our student success metrics and learning best practices from them so that we can use our data to help us move our student success strategies forward. It's a continuation, but it's also with a new equity lens being added to it. So if you think about it, we've worked on our structures, we continue to work on our processes, and ATD is going to be helping us work on our attitudinal or our cultural changes. They're going to help us build trust with each other and our students by applying this equity lens to our guided pathways work. And you can see that next month we have more work to do with our coaches and a facilitator coming and working with our executive team. So every month we'll have more to tell you about it. With Moonshot, this has only kicked off for a week. You can see we were working with them ahead of time. Today was the podcast recording on EAB. They have a podcast, a series, and Dr. Martin was interviewed with Tom Sugar, the National Director of the Moonshot for Equity. So I'm not sure if Beth has provided you all with that link or the opportunity to hear it, but you really should listen. She did a great job and made us all proud and told our story very well of why it's so important that we do this work and we do this work now. So we'll be using our HERA team, which is the Higher Educational Regional Alliance. We were already part of that. We're looking to bring that team, kind of working with that team to oversee this Moonshot work, with the addition of the project manager, David Rowe from IT, and he is overseeing the Navigate team to coordinate the internal configuration, the data extraction, data transfer, all the way through the implementation process of getting that technology platform up and running, which is going to be a game changer for us. So again, our kickoff was just last week. We start with a diagnostic assessment that will be launched next Monday. And so more to come as we move forward on that as well. So okay, this looks scary. So let me just say, we're not going to go through all this right now. What this is, I would like, when we think about Achieving the Dream and about Moonshot, those are our two partners that are helping us with our guided pathways work. But as board members, you are also our partners. And in order for you to be partners, I know that you want to know, what are we doing? And how do we know what we're doing is making a difference and helping? So this is something that I'd like you to maybe look at after offline and then have a conversation with us. So let me just show you how we can just read through this quickly. You know that our guided pathways work is based on 4 pillars of the student experience: clarify, enter, stay, and learn. So we are rebuilding our structures and processes inside those 4 pillars. That was the basis of our work. So as we continue to do this, it's all, again, to become more student-centered, more student-ready. If you go, for example, to the left corner and look at clarify, underneath the blue completed, those are things we've already reported to you on. We've already told you about our new academic and career pathways. Individual pathway deans have come and given you updates on what's been going on, and they will continue to do so. Credit reduction in the programs, we've told you this. So what's happening now? Well, now we're going to be looking at making our transfer partnerships more robust. We have new dual enrollment strategies, particularly in times of COVID. They've been reaching out to us to increase these partnerships. So that's kind of what we're doing there. So moving forward, what I thought might be helpful is if you kind of look through this and you see things that we've completed and you want to know, where are we in terms of evaluation, in terms of plan, do, check, act, and then we can get the owners to then provide an update at the various meetings. If you want to know more details, so staying with the clarify, if you want to know, well, exactly what are these dual enrollment strategies, we can get that on a board agenda and we can give you more details. So I thought this could be our roadmap together that we could use this year to kind of provide you ongoing updates as needed, if that sounds like a plan. So it's actually a plan that Director Foley kind of mentioned. So yes, I'm not taking full credit for it, but the idea is I want to give you updates, but I want to know, what do you know? What do you need to know? What you want to know? And then we're happy to provide you with that information. We do right now, however, have some data we could show you. So if we go to the next slide, we have a few metrics that we can talk a little bit about. So the ones that we'd like to talk about, course completion. This is considered our leading indicator, because when we're talking about student success, of course, we're talking about graduation and completion, right? But they first have to complete the courses they're taking with us right now. So when we look at this, this is WTCS program, meaning that these are our program students. And you can see that we were progressing kind of slowly, incremental success going up in course completion. And then we maintained that. So this is spring of 2020, 79.4%. So we are still behind the districts, but I'd like to put a little asterisk here to say that we continue to increase, which is great. We kept pace with the other districts, even though our district was hit the hardest during COVID. And I really have to say, I think it is because of the tireless work and effort by our faculty and staff in the spring when we had to pivot to online. It really, they just did some heavy lifting to help. And then going on through the summer, one thing I should note is that this includes incompletes, which we had a high number of incompletes still in early August. Students who are not yet ready to come back, and we extended that from spring. So they're still working on that. I should note that Dr. Yan Wang, our director of IR, is on the call. So if anybody wants to totally geek out with numbers, that's not me, but Dr. Wang is here to answer other questions. But so this is one that we can go back to. This one we can do snapshots every semester. And again, we would hope that this continues to increase under the new pathway structure, where the students know where to go to get help, more academic help, and also where to get that non-academic help, where they have that community in the pathway office. The retention numbers, the second set that I was going to show you today, they're available at different times, but I did want to look at just the one from spring to fall, which we did have a 3% overall, the drop from spring, but quite frankly, that's not as bad as I thought it might be. But what we wanted to look at was the fact that the program students who received advising between the spring semester and the fall semester came back 17% higher retention rate, and the non-program students had a 53% higher retention rate. So when Dr. Martin came a few years back and said, we need more advisors, and then we need to reorganize so that the students can get to those advisors, this is suggesting to us that we're on the right path. I shouldn't have said path, but you know what I mean. This should be and should continue to be a successful strategy. So again, these are the kinds of things, data that we can give you more on a regular basis. And the second part about the evaluations is that those pathway offices, we are evaluating them and have been for processes, internal communications, things like that.
There we go.
Yeah. So just this month, we've started to also ask our students who use the pathway offices for their evaluations. So if they've had an interaction with a pathway office, either online or face-to-face, they get a brief survey where they get to do a rating, but they can also give us some feedback, as well as give us their contact information if they want to be part of a focus group, so that we can do a deeper data dive. What do these results really mean when it comes to, are we serving the students the way we hope to? So those are just a few of the data points that I thought you might be interested in, just to kind of get the conversation started. Hopefully you can go back to that other slide offline, take a look at it, and then work with Beth, and we can make sure that we're providing you updates on things we've done. How do we know they're working? How do we know we're improving them? As well as any details of strategies we're currently working on. So that is it for me, unless you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? I have a couple of quick questions about this last slide. One is the first indented bullet point, 3% drop overall from 2019 spring to fall. I'm not sure I understand
Sorry,
that. Should that
sure.
be 2020?
It should say 2020. So that what that means is from spring to fall comparatively from, yes.
Got it. Okay,
Sorry
so
about
that should be 2020. Then with regard to the higher retention rates, those numbers look really good. Question, what percentage of program students and what percentage of non-program students received advising?
I'm not sure about the numbers there. I know that we had trouble tracking, that all the offices were not using the same tracking, and that has been just figured out thanks to Janae and Dr. Law and Dr. Jans. And the deans have come up with a new tracking system. So we'd be
Good.
able to do that in the future.
I'd like to see how these numbers change as we go forward or stay the same. But I think it's important for us to have a sense of how many students we're really talking about for which we are getting this significantly improved outcome.
Sure.
If you could include that.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Mannion.
Thank you.
Let's see, next is the online 21st century presentation from Dr. Dakwar. You have the floor again, Dr. Dakwar.
Well, thank you, Chair Foley, again. So our team is happy to present to you the online learning at the 21st century classroom initiative. Just a quick kind of review here. This initiative is truly consistent with our mission and commitment to student success. And the presentation itself will focus on the quality of online instruction and student engagement. You will see throughout the presentation much discussion about our strategic approach to supporting students, faculty, and staff, providing the technology platform, tools, resources to deliver instruction, providing the coaching, training, and ongoing support to our faculty, and using the data analytics and best practices to help inform our decisions. We could have done it without our faculty and staff. So I would like to acknowledge the exceptional work done over the past few months. And at this time, we have a team to present to you very specifically what this looks like. I'll start with Dr. Pam Holt, our Dean of Online Learning.
Thank you, Chairman Foley, District Board members, and Dr. Martin for allowing us to present the update on the online learning and quality instruction. Like many colleges, the pandemic hit, and we had to quickly determine where do we go from here. Shortly after the related closures, we knew that we were going to pivot to teaching as many courses online as we could. With that decision, we had to determine the issues that impacted student success and the immediate needs of our students to help them learn online, as well as address the needs of our faculty to be able to teach online. Next slide, please. Teams were formed to determine the hardware and access needs of our students. In addition to new students for online, we also have many students that were existing online learners, but they would typically access their courses using on-campus technology. So we had to consider the needs of that larger population of students and how they would not only connect, but what type of devices they would need. So that was one team. The next one was the newly formed online team. We work with faculty experts in online delivery and quality matters to determine the process to review new to online courses. MATC needed to migrate over 1,800 sections to online in about 3 weeks. We created a process to review, address issues, train faculty, and train students. In addition, we had to look at our technology and determine if our portfolio of offerings really supported online best practices. We found that we needed to really ramp up our communication strategy and add to it a bidirectional texting method. And while this tool is not not fully implemented, we have already had very high numbers as far as faculty using it in the status that it's in. In addition, we added a tool for screen and lecture capture that has excellent closed captioning features. We provided training to faculty for both of these new technologies. And we built, previous slide. The technology is one part of the equation. We then needed to move forward with a plan to improve the quality and consistency of online courses. This is where the 21st Century Classroom Group was formed, which is faculty-led and aligned with the national standard of quality matters. Next slide. And this really is about the approach that we use to improve online quality during the pandemic. As of spring 2020, we had about 15% of sections being offered online. During this time, we were transitioning to guided pathways, which included the creation of online learning department and the Center for Teaching Excellence. Due to the pandemic, we needed to determine how we would survive in this environment by addressing the quality and consistency of online instruction for all courses. This was a reaction to the impact of COVID. Come summer 2020, we knew the pandemic was going to last a while, and we needed to address the quality and consistency of our online courses, because going forward, this may be the primary method of instruction for a longer period of time. We created a process, a lot of live training for both functional use and course delivery, for support and follow-up for faculty to improve not only online instruction, but all forms of instruction at MATC. By fall 2020, we were expecting to offer about 70% of all sections online. Quality online instruction is now a major part of who we are. As such, we need to thrive in this environment and not only have guidelines, but also accountability for teaching online. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. Next slide. This slide, I wanted to show some of the preliminary evidence that the process and standards put in place are positively impacting student outcomes. This data is from the learning management system, Blackboard. It shows the average grades for assignments, tests, discussion boards, and other graded items within the learning management system. Comparing fall 2019 to fall 2020, face-to-face sections improved by just under 2 percentage points, whereas online improved by almost 5 points. And now we'll hear from Dr. Julie Ashlock about more details about quality instruction.
Thank you, Pam. I'm Dr. Julie Ashlock. I'm the director of our new Center for Teaching Excellence. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you all tonight. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our 21st Century Classroom. As Pam mentioned, we formed a committee as a result of the COVID pandemic, which is primarily made up of faculty. We had some incredibly dynamic faculty leaders in this group, along with Pam, myself, and a few other administrators. We were really looking for how we could set standards that would apply to every course across the college, recognizing that we would have many more online sections, what we now call virtual, which is synchronous learning, in addition to blended, hybrid, and face-to-face. We reestablished the standards that already existed in our faculty appendix and are part of that Quality Matters framework. And this committee created a self-assessment. It was written with growth mindset language. So do you have this skill or not yet? And then I had to create a whole new team in the Center for Teaching Excellence, which was all composed of faculty. And these are our faculty development coaches. And in conjunction with Pam's team out of online learning, we developed a system and a process where every instructor submitted a course for review by the Blackboard review team out of Pam's department. And then the faculty development coaches followed up with support. So every single instructor that had a fall assignment went through this process of answering the self-assessment and then submitting a course for review and then getting one-on-one coaching as needed from a peer. And again, there was accountability built into that system for those who chose not to participate or those who didn't go through the entire process, where their deans were then following up with them about whether or not, you know, they would be teaching this fall. So next slide. If we look to the right, we'll see that the committee determined levels of skill that they were looking for in each class and from each faculty member based upon the self-assessment results. So the level 1 was really basic learning management system functionality. That was what we determined every single instructor needed to have in every different modality. So even the traditional face-to-face courses, we needed them to be able to have the basics in Blackboard, in our learning management system. And then there were the additional levels, 2A, 2B, which we're asking every instructor to achieve by the end of this academic year. And then the level 3 and 4 are really the super users and the peer mentors that we can lean on. So here's just a snapshot of some of the numbers. I won't read them all to you, but I'll just note that 99% of our full-time faculty completed this self-assessment in the entire process, and that 73% of our faculty ended up needing to work with a coach, and all of that work happened between July and August prior to the semester start and leading up into the semester start. And that work is continuing as the coaches support faculty towards level 2, 3, and 4 skills. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. So as you know, improving student success and supporting our product and our students, the quality stretch never ends. So really, we want to show you some things that we're working on as next steps. This slide shows some data analytics that we will be sharing with those who need it. We're envisioning that this would support advising, but also faculty. And what this shows is that this is actually a piece of live information with the protected information removed of a student. So this student in the purple, it shows where the student is, where they're accessing the courses, how many times per week, their submissions, their time in the course, and their interactions in the course. So we thought that this would be a good dashboard to share with various teams so that we can address the needs of the student on a more personal nature. We can see, you know, if the student is moving along at a normal pace and all of a sudden there's a drop, we would be able to reach out to that student to engage and find out if there are some issues that we can help with. So this is part 1 of this slide. And if you could go to the next part, please, the next slide. So this is part 2 of that same report. And what this does is show information to the user, so the faculty or the advisor, of information for the student's prior practice. So this student had completed the 2 courses listed here. And there's more information that's shown to the right that is student specific, so that we can see, does this student typically have issues midterm? Do they complete better or start better? Things like that. So this type of information we believe will help with not only our faculty and supporting the students, but also our advisors, so that they have some data to go by and they're able to proactively reach out to students as opposed to a reactive nature. So that's part of the analytics package. And that's our presentation.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Director Hamilton, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. This is actually pretty interesting to see the change in such a short period of time. I was just looking at the slide that said that 15% of the classes were online at the beginning of the year, and now fall 2020, I think it's back one more. Yeah, that one there.
Right here, yeah.
and now 70%
Yes, sir.
of the classes. So that would mean a large number of the faculty had to be brought up to speed in order to make all of this happen. It seems like that's going pretty well. And I know here at the city, the fact that we had to do so many meetings online and trying to get community input and those types of things on this platform made it very, very difficult. And there were a lot of hiccups along the way. We had to rely heavily on the IT department on making sure that you know, those bumps were smoothed out as we were going. With this amount of change over a short period of time, have you been getting the things that you need in order to make sure, especially the communication with IT, on making sure that everybody is got the equipment that they need, the proper training, and that they're using the platforms to their greatest ability?
So we have done that very well in progressing collectively as a team to move things online. So some of the things that we needed to use were already in place. The learning management system existed. We had a template for online courses. We had a method to have live instruction, which is part of the Blackboard learning management system. In addition, we were looking for a new tool for a screen capture, lecture capture. So that review process was beginning. We were able to quickly move that product online without really needing IT support. We were able to handle that on the administrative side under my team. We do have a tool that we need a little bit more work on, but we're working with IT to have that be completed.
All right, and then I know you're using Blackboard, and I know, I mean, we were using that for a minute at the beginning. And it's probably built better for classroom activity as opposed to just having meetings.
So there's two components to Blackboard. There's Blackboard Learn, which is the learning management system. That's the component that has all of the courses, the learning content, the discussion boards, assignments, tests, everything that would create or replicate a course online. The Blackboard Collaborate is the virtual conference system tool. And that tool is made for classrooms. So it has some unique functionality for classroom learning. Okay.
Yeah, it seems as if your portion of this it's the biggest part of the change that the institution, as far as the instruction is concerned, have to make adjustments for. If you had a wish list, what would that be?
So we have great technology. We have the ability to really replicate a lot of things online. We do need instructional technologists to really be that conduit between the front end learning management system and learning instruction, and to coordinate with IT so that we can have some improved cohesion between those two areas. But we are working with IT to make sure that we can do that as best as possible with the teams in place.
Okay. I would ask Mr. Chair if we could at some point possibly even have an update from IT about some of the challenges that they may be facing, or some of the successes that they're having with dealing with some of this, with some of the change, because you know, I'm sure that there are challenges there that we will probably want to be aware of.
Just to clarify, are you asking for information about how well our technology systems are working, or something different?
Yeah, how they're working, and considering the challenges that are currently happening with coming up to speed. Some of the things that may be helpful in helping them meet these challenges.
I think that's a great idea. I'm hoping that we're going to get a report about the online quality process and how it's succeeding, and whether there's anything we can do to support it, whether it's technologically or otherwise, on a regular basis, because this is so mission critical right now. So that's my expectation. Pam, if you didn't know before, you know now. That's really what we need.
I look forward to it.
Good, excellent. Anyone else have questions? There's Director Case, are you raising a hand, or was I misinterpreting that? I guess no question there.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So with the new program, are we able to, sometimes like there's classes that can be pre-recorded, or is it all live synchronous classes, or are there some asynchronous going on?
So we have both. We offer asynchronous and synchronous, and the new method, which is bisynchronous, so that you can teach in person, online. You can also have that recorded and then share with the students. The technology that we're using also allows students to ask questions of a recorded session, and those are then sent back to the faculty. So it's pretty interesting and very high tech to allow the faculty to record that session, but then also allow the students to kind of interface with that recorded session.
I'd like to add to this. This is Mohammed, and in addition to the online and the virtual, we do have hybrid also, or blended format. So our students get to come to class for a portion of the class, and they can take the lecture component online as well. So we do have hybrid as well.
Any other questions? All right, very good. Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the annual procurement / construction services summary. Mr. Hollow, you can't seem to escape here. You're on again.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to introduce our purchasing manager, Laura Moore. She will take us through the slides, and I think she's going to get some help from construction services. I'm not sure. Take it away, Laura.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This report will be broken up into a couple sections. The first portion will actually be what is required by the WTCS on what the purchasing department has to report on every year, which is any vendors or categories that I have found to have an opportunity to save money through a possible competitive process after looking at the annual spends at one time. The second portion is voluntary, where the self-auditing portion of our report, which is dealing with hub spends over the course of the year. So that will be broken into two parts. I will discuss the non-construction, and then I believe it's Ginny Ruthie who will be discussing the construction portion of the purchases. So if we could have the first slide, please. So we'll go down to the first page. The first page is basically making a statement about what the purchasing function is within MATC, just that we're responsible for getting everything that everybody needs to be able to teach. So we also, as part of just generic language, it's part of WTCS, we encourage affirmative action activities with hub, etc. And this is just stating that fact. If you could go to the second page, please. This I included because purchasing has always been defined as going by these different values. If you can go down a little bit, just that it's accountability, impartiality, and ethics were always what we were based on. But per our subcommittee group meetings, there's maybe some different definitions that should be added to this as in being equitable, et cetera. So that's something that's being discussed not only within MATC, but within WTCS altogether. But I wanted to include these definitions so you understand what the basis of MATC's purchasing had been on up to this point. So if you go to the next slide, please. So per WTCS, every year, the purchasing department will look at the spends of the preceding fiscal year. And we'll put together not only spend by vendor, but also by grouping. So what we do is we look at this as an opportunity to say, okay, we may have spent, just $10,000 with 6 different vendors, but if we put them all together because they're in the same category, there may be an opportunity to do a competitive process and get a better value for the college. Not surprisingly, this year, we spent money with a lot of different PPE vendors. And that's a need that may go into many years to come. We really don't know at this point. So although we found some contracts that people can use, we were basically using those vendors that could provide the services or the items at that time. So hopefully we're going to be able to go out and really look at this more like overall, more collaboratively, and see if we can build some relationships with vendors and either do our own competitive process or find a contract that will give us the best value overall. The second one is executive staffing agencies. With we're not only dealing with COVID, of course, we've also been going through the pathways, and we've hired a lot of higher level executives for MATC. And sometimes we need to go out for help. And we've used a variety of different contracts, and or we've had to do individual competitive processes. I think we're going to take the opportunity to see if maybe we can get a competitive process where we can have maybe a group of or a pool of different staffing agencies we can use, or just maybe one individual. It would really depend on what we find out there. But those are the two that I saw the biggest need for a competitive process to be completed. Okay, next slide, please. So this again is going over the fact that MATC chooses to self-audit ourselves and look at hub spend. This isn't just a reaction to, the current social environment. This is something that MATC has always considered an important part of who we are. So this is stating this is what we're going to do. You'll go on to the next page, please. So what this first graph is this is looking at the construction and non-construction together. We're looking at the overall spend for last year in these categories and what the overall hub percentage was. So as you can see, last year we were at 10.6%, which is actually more than last year and even more than the year before after we'd had a slight dip. So we are moving in the right direction. We always provide 5 years, so so we can look and see if there are any trends coming up and see what we can do, hopefully, to either stop them or make them continue in that direction. So right now we're going in a good direction. You can go to the next slide. That graph is just showing what was in the table. So for this year, for non-construction hub spend, we actually had a pretty good increase. We're at 6.5%. We're going in the right direction. We had a couple slower years in 2017 and 18, but then last year and then over last year, we've even had another increase. So we've really been focusing on this the last several years, but a lot of times it depends on what kind of items need to be purchased as well. This year we've had, excuse my dog, he's very interested in this. We had a lot of purchases that were made that were in computers, and that is in direct response to COVID. So we just need to find the right vendors for the purchases that we need to make at any given time. One thing that we try to do is each year we'll look at what our spend is, and then we'll think, okay, what can we do to better increase that spend? Because as we've discussed in the past, we work within very specific guidelines by WTCS of what we can do to encourage hub spend. So what MATC did this year is the first thing is historically the underutilized businesses I found over and over again in all of my readings and my research in this, what's stopping minority vendors from being able to increase their business. And one of the things that I saw, like I said, the most was that a lot of times they're smaller businesses and they don't have either the money or the time to participate in all of the networking opportunities that maybe other businesses do. So we thought to ourselves, how can we reach these vendors that don't have the time to participate in all of these different networking events? So we're putting together an online program or outreach program. We're going to go through LinkedIn, which is going to direct people to the MATC website, which of course provides all the information on what our requirements are, and it will show them when our listening sessions are. So that's really important that we get people that they not only can see what our requirements are on their own time, and that they can have that as reference, but they'll also see that we're going to be having those listening sessions. And as Director Phelps-Okoro mentioned, that we're trying to tweak that. We're trying to make sure that we're not just saying, okay, that's what we're going to do. We want to listen and see what the different vendors actually need. So we're moving that time till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when people may be more able to have that time available to meet with us. And we're going to go virtual rather than saying that they need to come on campus to have these meetings. Who knows, maybe even after COVID, when we go back to our new normal, as they say, we may continue to do it virtually just because it better meets the needs of the vendors. If you could scroll down a little bit, please. Oops. The next one was to advocate for WTCS policy. Right now, only Milwaukee and Madison are monitoring their hub spend. And there are no goals within WTCS. There are no, and WTCS has not adopted the state policy of the 5%. Now, just recently, WTCS has agreed to do that for the bids. I don't think it's official yet, but it's been written. And a lot of that was to deal with Milwaukee and Madison talking constantly about this with the WTCS. We've been bringing it up for years, but it really wasn't on anybody's radar. But fortunately, with the social climate right now, people are more willing to listen, and we took advantage of that. Part of that is both Madison and I accepted the chair position for the purchasing consortium, and Madison accepted the secretarial chair. So we can basically set what we're going to be talking about at the purchasing meetings. And diversity spend is one thing that is now a monthly discussion point. Right now, a lot of that discussion is being done by Milwaukee and Madison, but it's important that the message is shared over and over so people understand the importance of that. And I think we will get more traction and more people involved if all of the colleges could come together and make that a priority. Another roadblock that we saw was the hub participation programs. To be successful, it will require the participation of all members of the organization. It's not just purchasing. By the time a purchase decision has been made, a lot of time purchasing has nothing to do with the vendor that's chosen, or it's only within the bid or RFP process, and that decision is made by pricing and the evaluation criteria. So we needed to find ways to engage the rest of the college in this. So when distributing bids and RFPs, it was always the policy that the people requesting the purchase would provide information for 3 vendors for purchasing to directly solicit. Now it's a requirement that at least one of them is a minority vendor. It seems simple, but it gets people thinking about that all the time. So it's a normal part of the process to them. Also, with the creation of the new academic operations department, it's very exciting that there's going to be another department that is spreading this message of the importance of and how everybody can get involved with the purchasing process and increasing minority spend. So it's not just Laura in purchasing saying this, it's being shared by other people. And the great part about the academic operations department is that they are involved with the purchasing process at smaller levels than we are, because they're helping with enter the EPRs, which probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but the request for the POs. So they can talk to the instructors that are making these requests and remind them, think about the different hub vendors that are out there, and they can direct them also to the purchasing page where we have the links where people can look for diverse vendors. Again, it's just a matter of making it the norm. that people always think about including that as part of their purchasing process. Another roadblock that we ran into was when we're purchasing items through large distributors, especially for non-construction, because we're buying a lot of commodities and we're ordering things through state or cooperative contracts. We're not, obviously we're not going to do a competitive process every time we need to buy a test tube. We're going to use an existing contract. So what we need to do is we're working with some of the vendors, the larger distributors who work with multiple vendors, and saying, listen, when MATC wants to order a test tube, and if there's a minority vendor available or a hub vendor available, that's who we want our orders to go to. So that's a process that we're working through right now, and hopefully we'll have some good reports. And again, I strongly believe in the importance of communication and education in making this really work, this diversity spend, because it takes everybody working together to do this. And again, it should not only be an initiative, it should be the norm. So does anybody have any questions about any of the changes that the non-construction portion has made towards hub spend?
I don't think we have any questions for you right now, but there is something I would like to see, and this is probably addressed to Dr. Martin as much as to you, Laura. We've heard a lot tonight about individual initiatives, and I want to particularly compliment Laura on stepping up to participate at the statewide college level to help make change there. But I'd like to see something, just a one-page summary of the kinds of things that our institution is doing, and particularly those that are new things or enhanced things or greater emphasis, to show that we are responding to the demands for diversity and equity and social justice. I think it's important in talking to some of our constituencies that the board members, as well as anyone else, can rattle these things off or say, yes, we're doing a lot, we're doing more, and we don't have to say, let me get back to you about that. So I'd really like to have a one-page summary of the kinds of things we've heard about tonight and other things that are going on. Does anyone else have a question or a comment about this?
I do, Mark. I forgot to mention in my report that we also discussed adding what you mentioned on the website, so on the procurement site, so that the vendors, when they go in there, or we can just send them the link to what's actually transpiring within MATC regarding diversity spend.
Yep, that's a good point. I do have a question. I want to just put this out there and ask Dr. Martin and Laura and whoever else is appropriate to think about this. But I don't have a good knowledge of what it means to be a historically underserved business. But I wonder what the right decision would be if we are presented with two equally qualified vendors, one of which is owned by a historically underserved person. Let's say it's a white male, but the company employs a large percentage of minorities. So let's say that company employs 28 Black and Latinx employees, and the alternative supplier is minority owned, but is either smaller or has a smaller percentage or a smaller number of employees who would fit the historically underserved grouping. How do we decide in those circumstances where our efforts are most effective or what best serves the institution? I don't know. I'm not asking for an answer right now. I worry that as a society, we like simple, quick fixes that, if you look at more deeply, sometimes are not the best way to achieve the goal. And I don't know what the right answers are here. I think this is a correct question to be asking, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. So at some point in the future, we've had a long meeting tonight. I don't think we need to go into this tonight, but I'd like to be better educated about that. I think there are probably other members of the board. I'm seeing some head shaking that would as well. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much, Laura. And we'll move on at this point. The next category is new business.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Construction still has to talk. They
Oh,
still have to do
I'm
their
sorry.
their portion.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a few more things to add. Yes, so I'm Ginny Rothy. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm the Director of Facilities Planning, Sustainability, and Construction at the college. And yes, Laura went through the hub spend for the non-construction portion of the college, and she has up on the report the construction hub spend as well. So as Director Phelps-Socorro gave a report earlier, she did a great job of summarizing some of the work and increased outreach efforts that we're doing on the construction side. But I will point out to the board on this report, it's quite obvious, unfortunately, that our numbers are not trending in the direction we want them to be trending. We do have a departmental goal that we do state on the front end of all of our public construction bids of an 18% historically underutilized business participation goal. And you can see this past fiscal year and the year before we were beneath that goal. Last year when we did this report, I pointed out to the board that we're seeing our decrease in hub spend to be mainly tied to our increase in our mass notification, fire panel, and access control vendor that we were spending with. And we did see that again this year. So those of you who have been with us for a few years have seen every year when we do the capital improvement requests that we have been requesting increased spending on those life safety projects. And we do use a vendor, Honeywell, for those products, and they are not a hub business. And they are intricately tied into our building with all of these upgrades that we have done with their systems. So this year it was the same, the $3.2 million that we spent with Honeywell. If you extract that from the total spend in construction for the year, the hub percentage increases to 18.2%. So we do attribute our decline in those areas to really be to this increase with this one particular vendor. So we are doing what we can even to work with Honeywell on who they are selecting for their subcontractors for electric work in particular. So that is something that Director Phelps-Socorro pointed out that we are working on is contractor education. So in addition to the efforts that Laura pointed out that she's doing to try to bring in vendors that can hub vendors that can purchase from MATC. On the construction side, we are doing that, but we do the majority of our work with general contractors. So we are spending quite a bit of time in our efforts to increase hub participation to educate those general contractors on working down the food chain and along the line on who they can hire that are historically underutilized businesses. So that was the tier 2 and 3 that Director Phelps-Socorro mentioned. The tier 2 would be those subcontractors that they can hire, and the tier 3 would be the material suppliers that they are purchasing from and having hub businesses involved all through that line. So there is quite an opportunity out there, and we are organizing listening sessions and open houses with those vendors and contractors as well. So we did put in this report just the places that we are advertising those bids. It's been the case for a while that we've been advertising in the Daily Reporter, the Spanish Journal, and the Milwaukee Courier. So that's the main report and summary of the outreach and efforts that we're doing. Are there any questions?
I'm seeing mostly shaking heads. Thank you, Jenny. I think we got everything we need for tonight. Excellent. Dr. Olson, are you speaking? Okay, I don't know why she's coming up as the go-to person. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is new business. This is usually pretty pro forma. I've got 4 things I want to talk about here very briefly. The first is that there are some circumstances where we are required to approve hires in the organization, and the delay between the time that a hiring decision is made by the administration and the time that the board gets to the approval point can be as much as a month, depending on timing. And with the result that we are actually losing some people we want to hire who get other job offers in the interim, or we are delaying the progress that we think we could achieve if we could get the people we want to hire in and working more quickly. So I'm going to propose that we move forward by having a potential meeting 2 Tuesdays after the board meeting, so 2 weeks after the board meeting, at which we would address any such hiring decisions on a consent agenda item basis, just like we approve hires now at the regular meetings, if there is a situation in which more urgent action is required, and leave that up to the administration to decide when that needs to occur. But I'd like us to have in mind that 2 Tuesdays later could be a date for such a very quick meeting on that limited purpose. We could talk about that at the next board meeting, and whether you have any other ideas for how to solve this particular problem efficiently. Second, let's see. It looks like we are going to have next month's agenda an appeal from an employee termination decision. Again, this is a process which the board handles. It doesn't happen very often. We have had 1 or 2 in the last couple of years, and so the continuing board members have been through this process at least once and know what it's about. Our 2 newest board members have not, and I just wanted to advise you that you'll be getting a call from our board counsel, Jose Olivieri, to tell you about the process and what to expect, what our standard for decision is, and what will be happening in this regard at the next board meeting. Third, there's a question. We typically have 1 and sometimes more than 1 board retreats during the course of a fiscal year. And typically there's 1 in the fall or late summer, and there is 1 in the spring. We've done a lot of work on guided pathways and other significant transformational things at the board retreats the last couple of years. We dealt with the compensation system revisions, big ticket items. The question is, are there topics that are worthy of that kind of extra attention or deep dive that we want to address? And so, again, I'd just like you to think about what those topics might be, what you think you would like to know more about or to spend more time working on. A couple of ideas that I have are what kinds of data are we asking for at these monthly meetings, and otherwise, is that what we really need? Is it coming in a form that is most useful to us? Are we actually putting it to good use, or are we making people collect a bunch of numbers that we're not really using? What data should we be asking for in order to make sure that we as a board are being data driven, and how do we ask for and get that? Similarly, I am very sensitive to the fact that these monthly meetings are very long and that they are very ministerial and report heavy. That is, we have a lot of things we have to vote on, and they take a fair amount of time, despite anyone's efforts to make this go quickly. And we get a lot of reports about a lot of things. And I see indications that people are fading as we get to the end of the evening. No big surprise. So the other thing I think we might think about is, how do we make these board meetings more efficient, more valuable to us as board members, but also to the institution in terms of getting us information in a way that we can act on and use as a basis for contribution to advancing the college. And finally, we have a couple of new board members and a number that have been thinking about things for years. What issues do we see as things that need emphasis or attention moving forward? I have identified following through on our expectations that the guided pathways program adoption was going to transform in a positive way the retention and completion rates. And I've asked for the data that we've seen tonight. There may be other data that you think is equally or more important for that purpose or others. So what should we be focusing on at this point, as opposed to being reactive to what the administration and all these good people we're hearing from are telling us is important? What else do we need to focus on? So those are all things I'd like to talk about the next board meeting or two. We'll see how the agendas work out in terms of available time. Beth, have I forgotten anything from the new business potential list?
No, I think that's all four.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes. Let me interrupt that. What about the facilities planning next month?
Yes, thank you. We have had a facilities planning project underway for a while. To no one's surprise, the events of the last 6 months have required that be given a fresh look, but we will be having a report. I believe it will come from Vice President Falkenberg about an analysis of the facilities we have and what we need going forward in light of COVID-19, but also looking beyond the return to normalcy. Is there any other new business that we want to identify now that we should be scheduling for some presentation or analysis or thought? Okay, I'm not hearing any now. If you do think of anything, please let me know right away. And I think we are ready for future events announcements. The next district board meeting is November 24th at 4:00 p.m. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
You two take it outside and settle up who's going to move and who's going to second. We have I gotta flip a coin here. We have a motion from Director Hamilton to adjourn and a second from Director Case. All those in favor of adjourning, please indicate that by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you all. Thanks to all of the people who presented tonight. I do want to just add this one last comment that we are seeing the administration demonstrate the depth and breadth of quality and knowledge and very good work. I'm very impressed with everything we've heard tonight. So thank you, and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night, guys.
Good night, Mike. Thank you. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Tony.
Thanks so much, Tony.
Good night, Mike.
Hey, Pam. Good night.
Bye-bye, Pam. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Machete.
Bye,
And
Tony.
Take care.